Well met, lords and ladies, Jacob Butter speaking, and a warm welcome to this week's Walking Wednesday. Sorry, a wet welcome, it's raining again. That's right, first video recording of 2025, and, well, first video of all in 2025, for me at least, and you can't see it. Yes, that is entirely my fault. I forgot what day it was, you know, having essentially, you know, had a couple of days, you know, coming down from the adrenaline high that was the Jacobs this year, already any year for that matter, and yeah, I completely blanked on this, because yeah, it's been quite an interesting time, to be honest. You know, in between, because like, you know, after getting sick and still having to deal with a cough to some degree, depending on, you know, what level of severity that's applied to. There you go, that level of severity, I guess, today. Not too bad. And having so many things that I was planning to do before even I left Spain, and then, you know, backtracking that. You know, I've said in past years that that the holidays are usually, well, December in general is usually quite a stressful month for me on account of obviously not only the holidays themselves happening, but also the amount of traditions that I have either stuck to or let go of in previous years. So, you know, I guess I have replaced the final countdown song series I used to do until 2020, and then 3 years later, I guess I replaced that with the award ceremony. I mean, I guess even 2019 and 2021, I also still had I tried to produce the season finales of Mutant Girl seasons before such a point. And to be honest, part of me really did want to have season 3, episode 3 come out before the end of 2024, which of course ended up not happening. But that was partly because you know, other editors are involved as well, so yeah. Which, incidentally, I know that I promised change in that regard a few weeks ago, and I intend to deliver on said change, because before realizing what day it was, I was actually in the middle of doing my annual call-up for the Mutant Girl anniversary remake. This year's anniversary remake, of course, being season 1, episode 7. Not only that, but also Aiden suggested a while ago, and I intend to follow up on this, that that I actually start calling for the next 2 episodes ahead, you know, to avoid massively overextending the time further than it already has been. So I'm also calling for season 3, episode 4, for those who haven't done so already. However, I have not pinged these specific people partly because it's getting more difficult to backtrack and see who was involved with what and who actually is the most recent VA for some of the characters. For example, Wiley Productions, aka Dylan, has gone back and forth, I think, versus because at one point he left, then at one point he came back and said, "Oh yeah, I'm offered just more. I've studied more and I've become more adept and successful with filming. So, you know, whatever you need from me." And then, of course, I don't claim anything because I'm already doing my own thing. And then, yeah, and then I haven't spoken to him in a long time since. That's a disadvantage of not having such a like a community server focus anymore on the VA specifically. Buttercore used to be like a relatively active place. Not too much, but slightly like between the degree that like lots of gacha voicing servers are now compared to what they used to be. Somewhere in the middle of that. And yeah, the disadvantage of that is because I mean, people didn't even message in there all the time anyway, so end up not being like the huge focus that But I can see the advantage of, you know, the community servers for hype purposes of the series. A lot of people, again, as the voice of the community actually, you know, rose up, they started to use them in that form. Oh, look at that. That's the one advantage of recording at night. You get to see the light decorations that some people have put up. 30 out of 100. There you go. But yeah, so I was in the middle of that when I realized, oh yeah, I've got to film. So I pinged the people who hadn't changed their usernames and were still in the server, and others I have to follow up on, because another issue with you know, multi-year voice productions is that even if the same people are still around, they change their usernames quite frequently. Especially on a site like Discord, where I have actually been called out as the weird person for, you know, not changing my profile picture or username for a substantial time. Well, not so much the username, that's become less common, but the profile picture for sure. My answer to that, of course, is that it's branding. But anyway, aside from that, for a lot of people, because the only way that I can credit them, on account of not having like a huge like social media presence or requesting a specific name to consistently credit them as, I have to go by their Discord tags. So that's why you can see like sometimes there are the same people who are voicing the characters, but they have been credited as multiple different things over time. You know, like Bat Nananan, Spartan Gaming, now Leve Palestina as well. That's their current username. But yeah, all the same person, all the legendary neutral originator. Yeah, so not really much else to say in regards to that. So I have to look into it a bit more thoroughly, which of course will also mean that I will eventually be going back and redesigning a bunch of characters, because in double form this time, because the thing is, I was gonna say, the thing is that we because the first edition of season 1 episode 7 of course was in Gacha Life 1, which means that I need potentially redesigns of lots of the new guests, like because it's the Marwick birthday party episode. By the way, more lights. It's the Marwick birthday party episode, which means that we need to redesign basically the members of his family, and obviously potentially add more depending on, you know, if the new designers wish to contribute more, because we're no longer in Gacha Life 1 and can allow that. Fun fact actually about the original episode, I actually, because I knew there was no way around the fact that I needed to have different guests that weren't around, because of course Marwick's family will be at his birthday party, especially if it's like a house party type of thing, because, you know, at that age that's more common. I can definitely say that I've been invited to nearly all of my youngest cousin's birthday parties, as has the rest of the family. So we tend to form a majority of the guest list, and not really featuring school friends of any sort. I don't think I've actually met any of her school friends ever. I've heard about them, of course, like some of them, but yeah, that's really it. I remember one time actually that that she mentioned a specific like friend of hers or something, and all that she said was, "Oh yeah, this is my friend so and so. He's a boy." Like it was, like she was expecting like a gigantic reaction from that, because, you know, I can guess that This is when she was much younger, by the way. I guess she was expecting a gigantic reaction from people, because I guess when she mentions that she had a friend who was a boy, that that was going to cause like some major uproar or something, or like that, ooh, a boy, or something like that. Do you like him? That kind of thing. I think that's what she was expecting, but of course, you know, me being the ever subverter of tropes, and thanks to, of course, Rain Juice as well, kind of cementing that in people's minds. Yeah, I just didn't care. Yeah, I do remember one time that Denethor, I haven't mentioned Denethor in a while, but he was saying that he was considering sending his daughter, who is Spanish, over to the UK for a year in order to, you know, further immerse her in the English language, which is already pretty good at, I will say. To be perfectly honest, I think she would definitely appreciate more going to China, because learning Mandarin as well on the side. But anyway, that's beside the point. And he was actually he was asking, oh, what kind of schools would be around and such. And I remember that my dad mentioned the local all-girls school, because one of his old workmates, and potentially also Denethor's. Actually, wait, no, wrong time period. Yeah, like that workmate's daughter went there. To which I then protested, like, God, please don't. One of the things that I hate the most is single-gendered schools. Anything to do with like gender, like isolation and separation, I've always said, provides more harm than good, unless it's for like safety concerns. Because I do know that I do know the benefits of, for example, you know, like all women's gym classes, for example. I think my mum has mentioned those a couple of times. At least those are optional, because the daughter was not present for this conversation. So but yeah, like when you're in that environment for that long, and bear in mind that schools have like safeguarding in placements in general as well. Not to say they're perfect. No system is perfect. Also, it fails to account for lesbians as well. Not saying that anything would happen, but again, it's not a perfect system either way, even if it was, if that was the concern. But yeah, I've rounded about this. I think I talked about this in a previous episode, actually, to do with that whole thing, and my dad's counter argument of, you know, that the lads that were of his age would have gotten distracted, you know, by it. But if girls were in the same school as he was, which my counter argument to that, of course, would be, if they were used to seeing girls around the school, they would be less distracted just by, you know, getting accustomed, let's say. It's also kind of harkens back to like old British comedies as well, because we like to watch a bunch of comedies from like the 70s or 80s, you know, things that my parents grew up with that I have then like absorbed by osmosis as well, and also really enjoy. A lot of them are can be like associated with, well, let's say, lad humor. So they tend to have like either all male casts or mostly male casts, and it kind of shows, because again, the way they talk about women in those ones is, well, I said the sentence 70s and 80s. That tells you all you need to know, I think. Safe to say that if they had female cast members, or more of them, that would most likely not have been the case, except for Open All Hours, because they had a very prominent female cast member, but yet the same thing still happened to her face. So I guess maybe not. I've got to give that some more thought. But anyway, again, I ramble about this because, again, I'm very passionate about that topic. What was I getting at originally? Oh yes, the fun fact about the guest list and such. So because I knew that I couldn't have the same guest list on account of them being to be like mostly family members. And I then I actually used a separate computer. Like I had an older computer that I had like that I had to like upgrade it from since, but it still worked. Unlike most of my other computers, where whenever I upgrade, it's usually because the other one has like completely broken, it's all busted. This one was the exception, so I used that instead, and I was able to just design a bunch of new characters that sat on that computer ever since, because I didn't use it to film any other episodes aside from the party one. So they kind of just lingered on for multiple years until that computer did in fact get busted years down the line. It was a new computer that I hadn't moved to yet because the old one still worked. So that new one, I kept that one because but I didn't use Gacha Life 1 at that point because obviously Gacha Club had come out. So those ones sat on there pretty much permanently as a result of that instead. My mistake. So yeah, you can imagine. What was I saying? Yeah, so I have to redesign those characters in order to in Gacha Life 2 and also Gacha Club, because there are some people on the editing team that still use Gacha Club, and as much as, let's face it would potentially be more effective if I took the brunt of proceedings again in terms of visual production, because part of the reason that the delays end up being so massive is because not only do I have life delays, but the other editors also do, and they don't necessarily line up. The exception being Aiden, who is of course quick and efficient as ever, and has offered to step up multiple times as in order to help the process along. Mostly because he himself wants there to be more content. He has pushed multiple times over the years for there to be like 2 video releases for the anniversary, which because I focus so much on having the anniversary be like the perfect version, or as close to perfect as I can without over obsessing over it, it's just not possible. At least not with the team that we currently have. I'll put it that way. So, yeah. What was I gonna say? Yeah, so that's why, I know that some double features have been included in the past, and that's because those episodes are much shorter than before. But yeah, beyond that, now with these newer ones, just because episode 8 is parts 1 and 2, and I have said before, episode 8 part 2 is my least favorite Gacha video I've ever made ever. So I am definitely anxious to remake that one specifically, but I know the pacing. And of course, I've also said in the past that it delays season 3 even more than it has previously, and it also season 2. But whatever, that's all done and dusted, of course, now. So that to me was also another reason, but I guess Aiden has accounted for that partially by requesting the other voice actors, which means I do need to get back and assess that. So yeah, new year, new logistical nightmare, let's say. I do admire productions like Fallen Angels, for example, that have been able to mostly keep characters consistent, and that is partially because Aiden has that advantage over me in that he actually does tend to get people to do things more in advance. I guess I just have to, like, you know, add like more bursts. The problem, of course, is that the later episodes of Mutant Girl are much longer, so is that going to be sustainable for lots of people? I do know that I did a recording session one time that lasted 3 hours, but that was one time. And for most people who aren't professional voice actors, you know, hours-long recording sessions, or however long they might take, is definitely a time sink. If they do it all in one go, I guess they could split it up. I know a lot of people give you know, 2-week time frames and deadlines, and I guess I was going to ask what the deadline is before I ask the backups to get involved. And I've famously given people far less. But yeah, at least for auditions, actually, 2 weeks. 2 weeks is definitely super short for that process. And I do realise that I have to actually do auditions for Granny Marwick and potentially some others if people don't desire to return, or if I've forgotten they've left. So another thing for me to check today. So yeah, that's thank goodness that I got everything else done and out of the way from December, because I was actually, you know, really considering whether or not to delay the Jacobs if it wasn't going to work. And you know, obviously it did. I had other plans for like better edits and such, because obviously having actually watched the Oscars this year, well, not necessarily this year, I watched them last year to get to think of the structure. Then I realized there's a lot of editing stuff that I didn't have time to do in 2023. So of course, you know, a lot more focus went into the nominations, because that's one thing that I was doing right after Christmas, was getting together all of the different possible nominations for all the categories. And I was thorough in this procedure, because basically I lose my lights again. So because I actually like scrolled through my my channel studio to look through and see, okay, here's some here's what I think for like all these things. And some of them, of course, because again, you know, let's say there's like, you know, close to 300 gacha reviews that have been done. So yeah, like I didn't remember some of them, so I would listen into like the final verdicts that we did, and of course hoping that the tangents didn't last too long, which a lot of them, of course, did. That's the same house as before. I've just been going in circles. Someone's going to go. Okay. Yeah. So but then sometimes for visual stuff, I had to rewatch either a clip of it or, you know, go through the actual entire video again. So it took some time. If I knew what I was looking for and what I wanted to assess, then that was something. But if not, yeah, that was a problem. And that is why it took several days, and why the poll was only around for one day. Also, to mention about the poll, Straw Poll apparently closed their doors this year because they didn't get enough users. Bear in mind, they're owned by people that they were owned by people who run Wikipedia, so you would think that as far as the user base goes, but then again, they've said before that they rely on donations, so a lot of the stuff they do is not for profit. Fandom, I know, is, because obviously there's adverts everywhere on that page, but whatever. So I had to look for a different source, and yeah, I hadn't heard or used Google Forms, I don't think. Not to my knowledge. It's the same way that I'm shocked about people don't know about Google Docs and don't use it more often when people mention that. Like I get like a lot of people start off by copy pasting and typing stuff into Discord, for example, or sending text files. It's like Google Docs will be far more efficient for you. But then again, I know about Google Docs because I learned about that through Lady Mania, who in turn used it for, you know, Mystic Hill scripts and other scripts too, but that's the one that I was most involved in. And kind of think that maybe she might have used Google Forms to for like the audition survey, which of course is the one that I filled in that I felt hard done by originally, because if people don't remember what happened. A lot of characters used to be voiced by this guy named Jesus, like, yeah, that was his actual name was Jesus, and he actually filled in the form multiple times, aside from multiple characters. I didn't know you could do that, so basically, I looked at the list. It's like, oh, which character would you like to voice for out of the season 1 cast? I clicked I pressed the first link, which was Ian. And then the page was gone. I thought, oh, well, I guess I filled this in, so I can't really do that. I'm going to talk to, if I get through this process, then I'll talk to Mania about that. Or maybe she doesn't want to have multiple roles. Because again, some people didn't. Then when she said to me, she talked to me a little bit. I don't think she even like heard, I guess you might have checked my channel and heard my voice maybe. But then she said, you got the part in Discord to me. I was like, oh, well, I guess, fantastic, fair enough. And then, of course, Ian had the fewest lines out of all the characters in Mystic Hills, and arguably was the only person who didn't know about the secret. That's why I have so few voice credits for Mystic Hills. And meanwhile, Jesus, of course, who had 4 different characters, several of which were, you know, pivotal to the series, including Leon back in the day. He had just so many. So yeah, that's partly also what inspired Federico, because that was my first cast voice role in 5 years since I did like that Peter Pan podcast, and yeah, lots of other stuff I got before Gacha were in that same vein. So yeah, Yandere High School, Federico was definitely my chance to be like, I'm going to do something completely different. Because I didn't get to show off the versatility that I wanted to. But then, of course, with Gacha, as soon as that stuff opened up, I vowed that I would audition for every available character that I thought I would be mildly suited for and show off my versatility during the auditions. Which did work. I got cast as like a bunch of stuff in the first thing I auditioned for, which didn't end up coming out, unfortunately, but, you know, it's the thought that counts. And of course, the Mutant Girl, you know, despite the fact that I didn't use, I didn't actually cast myself in any of the major roles, possibly a mistake on my part. My intention was to just voice like a bunch of like the filler roles, or, you know, the bit characters, so I wouldn't have to deal with casting them. So yeah, a lot of, and I guess here we are years later, and it's much clearer that some of those other characters I could have filled in significantly earlier. But yeah, who knows? I need to check and see what that's all about. You know, final thing about the Jacobs, of course, is that I actually checked this. I checked this back in that where someone said like, oh, Gacha Guild Awards had like a thing, you know, the year before in 2022, but then in the 2023 episode they say the first annual Gacha Guild Awards, which means that that again we were quite fortuitous to end up with being able to do, you know, both award shows on the same calendar date during the year itself, right at the very end. Don't know what that was. Because yeah, that means that we are in, as far as I know, the first Gacha Awards ceremony. Because yeah, it took until March for that to come out, which I appreciate the sentiment, of course, because I can imagine that was a project right after the year had wrapped up. And to the credit of the Gacha Guild Awards, they actually have quite the intense. Well, they have a lot of processes where I don't think it's a live event, as in like you don't have people live as themselves, but you have like the edits of them giving speeches as the actual people involved. You also have guest performances, which of course we now have too, but I think we did a little bit beforehand. No, maybe not. I forget what happened last year. I mean, the stream was twice as long this year, so there weren't that many new categories, so we definitely filled it up with something. And yeah, I'm critical of the Guild Awards' like selection process, because it does seem like a popularity thing, and that's mainly why like the one major hard rule for the Jacobs is that any videos to be considered for the Jacobs, you know, for any category, must have been on Gacha Review during that calendar year. That's the cutoff. Because of course, you know, how else can I judge them fairly? And notice that I forgot about a few of them, because again, there were nearly 300 of them. But again, I have a way to check. I can have, you know, I could be told by my past self. The final thoughts serve partially that purpose of reminding myself, okay, here's what I thought of this, so I don't have to go through and watch the entire video if it's like way too long, or I can check more thoroughly. But again, stuff that I have offered an opinion on in the past, and can properly assess, especially for categories like, you know, most improved creator, for example, that I have to have observed, you know, firsthand. Or I guess third hand, really, I think that would be in that context. I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, but basically I have to be able to determine that for myself. And that too has caused some scrutiny behind the scenes as well. There were some issues that Ghosty brought up particularly that seemed to cause confusion in both myself and Bon as to what the issue was. A lot of it relating to the Academy Awards having much stricter stipulations and rules around them. But yeah, the reason that the rules are the way they are is because that's the only fair way that I can judge them within the time frame, but also just in general. The one thing that I, of course, did acquiesce about was the fact that I should have reviewed the other judges' nominations a little bit more closely, because like some of the rookie productions, which did end up having to be a separate poll, some of them had to be scrapped because people voted for Ballet Pops, which of course is not a rookie production, and I would have known that, but Bon possibly wouldn't have properly appreciated the time it took in between. Ironically enough, Bon gave congratulatory sentiments to Flower Pot around the improvement from her first series to Ballet Pops. So again, but you know, so for that category, I do apologize that I should have like looked into it and been like, wait a minute, there are some things here that aren't rookie things by definition. I guess that's the other rule around them, is that you know, they have to be the thing that they are, you know. I guess like an example that Ghosty gave of the Academy Awards, like lead actor things. You know, one of the rules was must be lead actor, which, yeah, of course. You know, I said in the counter example that the awards for best musical numbers must be musical numbers. You know, we wouldn't nominate something like Disco Pops for best voice acting, for example, because as of right now, voice acting has not featured in the series. That being said, Disco Pops is tonight's review the first one of the year, because Josh requested it. And I remember, although I don't think it's been voice acted now anyway, because also Johnny mentioned that he was getting back and he didn't want to handle the voice actors process for those. So, yeah, I don't know. But you get the idea. Like we have some rules, and a lot of it comes down to subjectivity, which was partly what I tried to address this year, because you could tell from my reluctance to give like Oreo the award for best horror, for example. You know, it was not all based on my opinions anymore, but also those of the people who wanted to come in and offer their services as judges. I didn't question any more nominations beyond those, because after I reviewed them, I was like, okay, I don't agree with your choices, but that's kind of the point, right? That it's not just me anymore, because obviously the issue with 2023, of course, was the fact that, you know, even still, you know, I was coming through with a position of, you know, the highest caliber, you know, judgment, and some people do view me that way, in the sense that, you know, I've had people change their entire opinions on a series based on what I say about said series, and especially without going to the creator, that's also, you know, a thing that I'm very cautious of as well, because some people are more sensitive than others in that regard. But my own rules say that I have to make sure that I'm fair and judge all videos, you know, in the same way, with some limitations, of course. I'm not going to be like, well, you know, this video is not animated, therefore it's worse than the other one. Like, I judge fairly, and in the sense that, like I said, for someone where someone is, and I have like my own, I have. But then I still make sure to say, like, okay, this is how these people could improve in this way, the way that they're going, you know. But yeah, essentially because people value my opinion so much, it's other things as well. I said in my final speech that, you know, that like the people who got really emotional in the Jacobs and such, it surprises me because, and also, you know, people like, you know, Ghost's criticism, like the way that she was so verbose about it. It surprises me people take that stuff like so much to heart, but only because, you know, in the grand scheme of things, you know, we like of course we can't be objective, but also, you know, who are we, kind of, you know, because we can't speak for the masses because the masses don't know us, so we can only speak from our experiences, which I guess is the same for all award shows, because no matter people are unsatisfied with the verdicts, that's still a problem. Which is why we restructured for this year as well, and allow people to vote based on the nominations, rather than going through and you know, having them like list a bunch of things, and then counting up how many of those things they've said that were, you know, repetitions. Which I guess technically would have also worked, but would have been far worse logistically. So yeah, it's that was something. So we are trying to account for that nowadays as well, because yeah, I don't people take my opinions as gospel, you know. It's clear to me that people have different tastes, especially because if those videos got meant to be in the first place, the ones that I have persuaded people against, it must be for some reason, right? Like, even if I can't find that reason, the reason is remains for those people, again, unless I persuade them otherwise. Especially there's always something that people can appreciate that is different per person. And part of, again, my mission statement of trying to take gacha as seriously as possible, much like other art forms, is that those other art forms also have that stipulation, right? People gain different experiences from them, they interpret them in different ways, and you know, you can try to understand that, or, you know, you can obviously argue your piece and then, you know, see where you can go from there. But you know, it always comes from the same source, and that's somewhat fascinating. And I assure you, as someone who lived through the reign of hate, I've been able to see that firsthand for myself based on my own creations. But yeah. So this goes to show that you know, even there, of course, you know, lots of people who watch the Jacobs and attend it, they are creators in their own right, and just, you know, by definition, obviously. I mean, what I mean to say is that, you know, there's some people in the audience, they haven't necessarily featured their content, but they have still made some, or, you know, used to in the past. A lot of them still do because they're the ones that have been nominated and been reviewed. But yeah, on some level, everyone's got like that interesting gacha, some of which I'm proud to say came from gacha review. But yeah, like to some degree, that's you know, the people who have been impacted by the idea of not just the reviews but gacha in general. And I guess that's why that's so significant, because outside of, you know, I guess like the popularity of certain videos and the people who are still getting recognized to this day, you know, trying to come at it from a place of more, okay, you know, what merit does this have, you know, as the production, rather than, you know, based on the numbers that it has garnered, or, you know, how good its marketing was, or, you know, how much the algorithm picked up on this one versus another one. You know, trying to look beyond that. Like that's the idea behind it, you know, coming up from that perspective. And that, to me, is being more fair about the process. So yeah, we'll continue to improve for next year, and to be honest, I might actually keep the list of categories to hand so I can keep adding to them as the year goes by, rather than having to accumulate them later on. But yeah, that being said, we'll see. Maybe this new Disco Box episode was Johnny's you know, best foot forward, and he was saddened about the one nomination he got because he didn't get the chance to show his best work. We'll see if that's true tonight. So please leave a like or dislike, because your opinion matters. Subscribe if you haven't done so already, and I will see you for the first review, potentially, of 2025. And on that note, until next time, farewell.